hosting a good first lesson is absolutely crucial because you've done all the hard work of getting the student in through to the door. Now that you've actually got them, we want to make sure that we wow them away with your first session so that they continue to come back to you. There is no point getting students in only for them to just leave you after the first session, because that's not the way that you're going to build a truly sustainable and scalable business. The way that we can build a sustainable and scalable business is by actually adding students on top and constantly growing our tutoring numbers. That's not going to happen if they come in and then they just leave straight away, because you're just going to go back to the same number of students. So in this video, I'm going to share with you what you should be doing before your first lesson. Yes, we're not just going to talk about what's happening in the first lesson, because actually what is happening is that your customer experience from before your first lesson into your first lesson and then finally after your first lesson is crucial to make that overall experience a positive one so that the student sticks around with you. Hey, I'm Lisa. I am the founder of Lisa Study Guides, a private tutoring company that hires over 35 tutors. We look after 200 students each year. I've made over $2 million in sales growing this tutoring business. We also sell study guides, and so I wanted to share with you all of the learnings that I've made up until this date. I also offer tutor coaching through my own private services as well now. So if you're interested in learning from me, then please subscribe to this channel and hit that notification button. What needs to happen before your first lesson with a student in order for you to hook them in every single time? My first recommendation is to honestly just jump into a quick call with them. This can be a 5 to 10 minute chat, maybe even up to 15 if they've got plenty to say. But this is a really great way to nurture that customer and to really get to know them. This can really help to alleviate any anxiety you might have around getting started with a new student, because that way you actually get to learn more about them beforehand. You can go into that first session already having a visualization of what your customer or student is going to be like and having a plan of action for your lesson. So during this call with the parent or student, and I recommend that you do a call rather than emails, is because over email or text there's a lot of back and forth and things can be missed, whereas in a phone call, yes, I know a lot of people don't like phone calls, but they're highly efficient and they're a great way of actually showcasing your personality and your professionalism over the phone. So what I recommend you do is when you get onto the call with them, introduce yourself. So hi, I'm Lisa. I am going to be your tutor. I'd really love to know if you have 5 to 10 minutes just to chat. That way we can organize our first lesson together. And usually they're happy with that. If they're not, just schedule in a different time with them and then call them back. Now, if this is more of a sales call for you, if you haven't locked that student in yet, then do it with a different script. Hi, I'm Lisa. You've inquired about tutoring with me. I'd love to know if you have 5 to 10 minutes to chat about what tutoring will be like and see if it's the right fit for you. So doing a sales call is beyond the scope of this particular video, but it is something that I cover in my Master Your Tutoring Game Plan coaching course. So if you're interested in getting coaching from me, then have a look at the description below. Anyways, back to this video. So during that call with them, the one main part is the information exchange. Think about what's going to be important for you to share information about before your first lesson. So we're talking about things like what day, date, and time will you be meeting? I always make sure that I specify both the date and the day rather than saying, oh, let's meet next Sunday. Because the mistake that typically happens is that what you define as your next Sunday may be different from somebody else whose next Sunday may be the Sunday after next. You know what I'm talking about. People start the weeks with different days in mind, and so what's next to them can be different from what's next to yours. And so to eliminate that altogether, just specify the exact day and date. Then you want to talk about location. Is it going to be in person or in line? If it's in person, where will you be meeting? And give them an indication. What will you be wearing? What do you look like? Will you be carrying anything to help them identify who you are? You can also send them a picture of yourself as well so that they can recognize you from the get-go. Now, if you're meeting them online, then explain to them what software you'll be using. Double check with them if they've used that software before, and if they haven't, then you may want to do a tech check with them. So a tech check is essentially jumping online maybe 5 minutes before your actual session starts and just working through any issues they may potentially have. So they may not know how to turn on their video or how to troubleshoot audio when it goes wrong. So rather than that cutting diving into your tutoring time because you want to make the best impression possible, you want to just jump on a little bit beforehand so that you've got time to troubleshoot. Next is gathering information on what they would like to work on. So in that first lesson together, do they have something that they want to automatically jump into, or would they rather you share with them what you think is best for them? So that means that you need to get information on how they're going at school, what kind of grades they're getting, what their goals are, and that way you can understand what type of material you may need to work with in order to help them reach their goals. The next thing you want to talk about is your pricing as well. What is your price and how do they pay you? Is it through cash? Is it online? Do you send them invoices? Let them know ahead of time, because that way you're making sure that everyone is on the same page. The other thing I get questions about as well are contracts. Should you actually use a contract? Now, a contract is completely up to you. To be perfectly honest with you, I didn't use contracts for the longest time in my own business until I actually started hiring tutors, but there is definitely benefits in you creating a contract even from the very beginning. It can't hurt, right? To actually make sure that everyone is on the same page, quite literally with the contract, but also metaphorically with what the contract details, and both you as the tutor and them as the parent or student understanding what the expectations are, but also what the boundaries are. So things you can include in your contract include what they can expect from you as a tutor, how your sessions are actually run, the pricing, but also what type of support do you provide inside and outside of the sessions. One thing that a lot of tutors run into is not really knowing how much support they should be providing outside of their tutoring sessions. Some students actually don't know either, so they really push the boundary and ask lots and lots of questions and try to get as much help as they can outside of the sessions. In the past, I've made this mistake too, where I used to be really lenient. I used to just say, yep, send me through your essays anytime and I'll help you out. And I remember one occasion I had one student, he was an excellent student and he was a great student, but because that was the case, what ended up happening was he cancelled a session. He said, hey, is it okay if I send through an essay to you? And I said, sure, no problems, I'll mark it. So I marked it for him, and we kind of fell into the routine of, and this was not a good thing, was I actually ended up marking lots and lots of his essays, and he ended up cancelling more and more sessions because I was just providing that free support outside of the sessions. So it's really important for you as a tutor to ensure you have your own boundaries and you know where those boundaries are, and communicate that in writing so that when the person reads it and signs it, you're both on that same page and boundaries more difficult to cross. I created a video discussing more on how you can set boundaries and expectations, so I'll link that there for you too if that's something you need help on. Alright, so now that you've had that information exchange, you've set out clear expectations from the get-go, everyone's excited for the first session, let's talk about how to run your first session so that you wow the student and get them coming back every time. One thing I always say in my first session is don't just dive straight into the actual content itself. Tutoring is a service-based industry, as I always say. It's about the people. You're offering a service to somebody else, and so you really want them to actually like you as the person. It's not like you're a product. You're not a study guide that they're just going to flick through. You actually want to be able to gel with your student, vibe with them, make sure that you get along, because when you actually establish that, they're more likely to continue coming back to you because they want you as their tutor. And so what I do is I always recommend my clients, my own tutors, to establish rapport with their student. Spend time getting to know your student, because when they feel like you're interested in them, then they're going to feel better about the tutoring session itself rather than it just being about the maths or the chemistry. Let's be honest, sometimes a little bit boring. You're going to have students who don't love the subject either, and so if you can make it more fun for them by making it more enjoyable for them to come to your sessions because of you, that's a win for everybody. So first is to build rapport. The next part is to set expectations. So although you had set expectations in your call before this first session, even though you've done the contract itself, there's nothing wrong with repeating your expectations and boundaries to your students. People need to be told things multiple times, and so it's completely okay to reinforce these expectations and boundaries, because it's better to do this rather than to not say anything at all and then to have that student not be on the same page as you in the long run. It only takes 5 minutes or so, but it actually really pays off in the long run with those expectations and boundaries. The next part is to actually review your students' work or talk about their dreams. So focus the attention on them and what they want out of the session. The more engaged you are, the more curious you are about this, the better of a tutor you're going to be, because it's going to be less about you and what you want to achieve in the session for the student, and it's more about the student and what they want to gain out of the session. See how it's a flip of a mindset? The more you can service a student, the more that you can serve and cater to them, the better of a session they're going to have, the better experience they'll have, the more they're going to come back to you. After that, the main chunk of the first session is going through some of that schoolwork. So it may be work the student is interested in doing, it may be something that you bring to the table, but whatever it is, you want to make sure it's something that really showcases your own skills. So make sure that you can show to them why they're coming to you as a tutor. So is it the way that you teach that's really unique? Make sure you showcase that. Is it your personality? Do you make things fun? Are you funny? Then showcase that. So this is your time to shine. Think about what makes you special as a tutor. I have created a video on this. It may be live, it may be not. I will link it up there for you though if it is, so that you know what aspects of you make you unique and make people want to come back to you. After that, you want to make sure that you actually have time aside for questions. And this is so that you can make sure the student really understands what's happening rather than you just feeding them lots and lots of content. Remember, as a student, there's only so much you can actually absorb at one point in time. So even though you as a tutor may feel like you want to showcase as much of your knowledge as possible, remember, this session isn't about you, okay? I'm gonna be brutally honest with you. There ain't no BS here. You're here to serve your students. So ask them what questions do they have. Make sure that they walk away feeling clear in their own knowledge and understanding, that they feel confident, they feel good about their studies. It ain't about you. And then finally, in your last lesson, spend 5 to 10 minutes actually getting feedback from them and discussing what the next steps are. So rather than just wrapping it up awkwardly and going, okay, well, let me know if you want another lesson, actually go to them, hey, how did you find this session? Collect data. Get real information from your students so that you know how to improve as a tutor. And then, rather than just letting them go and letting it be at the whim of the universe and whether or not they come back to you, actually start engaging in that conversation. Be proactive about it and say to them, hey, would you like another session? Usually, students will actually say yes on the spot. And even if they were a little bit unsure, by committing to that yes, it actually brings back more people. So I know it may be uncomfortable, but if you do it and you do it over and over again, it's going to get very comfortable for you. You can see how comfortable that came out for me, and that's from doing 10 plus years of tutoring myself and actually having a really high conversion rate where 9 out of 10 times students would stick with me after the first session. And honestly, towards the later half of my tutoring years where I had a waiting list of students, pretty much every student who came on board stuck with me because they knew that I was in demand. So that's definitely something I want for you as well. How to hook your students in after your first lesson every single time. Let's talk about what you need to do after your first session. So after your first session doesn't mean that things are done. You actually need to make sure, and you want to follow up with your student, so to make sure that you're providing them that incredible customer service so that they're guaranteed to return back to you. So the first thing is, if you are unable to arrange a second session during your first lesson together, maybe the student's schedule is a little bit difficult to organize ahead of time, maybe you weren't too sure on your own time, then make sure you're proactive, reach out to the student and follow up with them on when they would like that next session together. You want to do this as soon as possible. So as soon as you know your own schedule, then make sure you get in contact with them. And if it's based on their schedule, during that first lesson, I would recommend you ask, okay, I know you're not sure of your timetabling now, but when will you know so that I can contact you then, and then we can organize our session together. That way it's not, you know, everything's up in the air and things are unclear and you're not sure when to message them, but you can actually message them when you know they know their own schedule. The second part of this is, if you told your student you'd send them any additional resources after the session, then do this. This is a prime time for you to show how reliable you are as a tutor and how invested you are in their own learning. Students actually feel like they're getting more value out of the session when you're actually sending them more resources afterwards as well. It means that your tutoring sessions are even more worth it. So everything that I've taught you today is actually part of my PIP method, the pre, in, and post your session. The pre-lesson, in your lesson, and post your first lesson. The PIP method is all part of what I teach my own tutoring coaching clients on how to hook your students in every single time with your first session. Now, if you want more details on the PIP method, including my template on how to operate your first lesson to hook students in every single time, then you may be interested in my Master Your Tutoring Game Plan coaching program. I teach you the A to Z of building your tutoring business so that you can build a tutoring engine that works for you and your lifestyle in just 90 days. So we cover your sales, your marketing, your delivery of the session. So that's where we talk about the first lesson and how to hook students in every single time so they continue to come back to you. But we also talk about your systems, how to streamline and automate your business so that you can actually free up your time to either grow the business or do all the things in life that you're interested in. And we also work on your CEO mindset, and when you're up to it, actually expanding your team of tutors. So hiring, onboarding, training tutors. These are all things that I've learned and I've incorporated into my own business. So I'm teaching you proven systems that work. And I've been seeing them work with my own coaching clients over this past year and a half as well. In the 3 months we have together, we jump into 6 fortnightly Zoom calls where I answer any of the questions you have regarding any aspect of your tutoring business. Plus, you actually get me in your back pocket with Instagram DMs or voice messages at any point in time over that 90 days. So if this is something that you're interested in, then I highly recommend you have a look in my description box to find out more. If you've reached all the way until the end of this video, I just wanted to let you know that I appreciate you so much. Please like this video, leave a comment for me, subscribe, all the good things, so that I can continue to work on this channel and to continue to give you all sorts of tutoring advice to help you grow your business. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.